I left my body, floating in space with a lightness and peace I had never known before. But the strangest part was yet to come. When the light appeared, I was no longer alone. Beings I had never met in this life were there, waiting for me. At first, all I saw was emptiness. But then, a radiant light began to emerge. It was not a blinding light like the sun, but a gentle, warm glow that spread around me, making me feel as if I was embraced by unconditional love. I felt no fear. Instead, I sensed a powerful pull, as if the light itself was calling me. Slowly, I moved forward. The closer I got, the more I felt an inexplicable energy. No more weight of a physical body. No more chaotic thoughts. Only absolute serenity. And then, within that light, I was no longer alone. From within the light, shapes began to emerge. At first, I could not clearly see them. But gradually, I realized that they had no fixed form. They appeared as beings of pure energy, radiating a strange glow. They had no mouths, but I could hear them speak. They had no eyes, but I knew they were looking at me. And though I had never met them in this lifetime, I felt a deep connection, as if I had known them for a very long time. One of them stepped toward me, and somehow, I recognized them. They were not strangers. Somewhere, in a past life, they had been a part of my journey. Then, a voice echoed within my mind. "You cannot leave yet. There is still something you must understand." I was startled. I wanted to ask, "Where am I? Who are you?" But before I could say anything, the scene before me changed. A vast screen unfolded before me. Not a physical screen, but a space filled with images. Moments from my life. But the most terrifying part was, I did not just see them from my own perspective. I saw myself as a child, when I had unintentionally hurt a friend. But this time, I did not just see myself laughing. I felt my friend's sadness. I saw myself arguing with my parents, saying things that had wounded them deeply. But this time, I did not just hear my own words. I felt their heartbreak. I saw the times when I had done good, helping a stranger on the street, offering words of encouragement at the right moment. And I felt their joy. For the first time in my life, I understood that every action we take has an impact. Nothing is meaningless. Nothing is forgotten. I was not being judged. No one was punishing me. But I had to face everything I had done, both good and bad. Then, the voice spoke again. "Every action you take leaves an imprint. But what have you learned from them?" At that moment, I did not realize that I was experiencing something that Buddhism had taught for thousands of years. The law of karma and reincarnation. Every action we take creates an energy, and that energy will return to us in some form. Life is not a series of random events. It is the result of what we have done, thought, and said. No one punishes us, but we ourselves must face the consequences of what we have created. And in that moment, I understood that death is not an end. It is merely a transition. The beings of light did not tell me what happens next, but I could feel that we do not have just one life. We have existed before, and we will continue our journey. I began to realize that perhaps life and death are not two opposite extremes. They are simply two sides of the same infinite flow. As I was immersed in these realizations, one of the beings stepped closer and spoke in a deep, calm voice. "It is not yet your time. You still have much to accomplish. At that moment, I suddenly thought of my loved ones. I saw them crying, praying for me to come back. I remembered my dreams left unfinished, the things I had not yet done. A part of me wanted to stay in this place, a place with no suffering, no fear, only light and love. But another part of me knew I had to go back. And the moment I had that thought, I felt a powerful force pulling me back. The light began to fade, and I felt the heaviness return. A piercing sound echoed, and then I opened my eyes. I was back in this world, but I knew I was no longer the same person. And from this experience, I learned death is not the end, it is a transition. Every action we take in life leaves an imprint. Nothing is meaningless. We are not just this physical body, we are a soul. On a journey of learning and evolution, I returned to life. But I no longer saw things the same way. I understood that what matters is not how long we live, but how we live. And I want to ask you, if today were your last day, would you have any regrets? Live as if every moment is the most precious. Because in reality, it truly is. What happens when we leave this world? Do our souls fade into nothingness? Or do we continue our journey in another dimension? As I moved deeper into the light, I began to understand secrets never before revealed. About life, death, and the true purpose of every human being. I was still floating, surrounded by gentle but powerful light. I felt no weight, no pain, no worry. But now, I began to sense something different. An invisible current of energy flowing through space. I was no longer seeing with my eyes, but rather, perceiving the true essence of all things. Everything had its own vibration, an invisible frequency connecting all. There were no boundaries between me and the world around me. I became a part of everything. I was no longer an individual entity, but a part of a greater existence. Something humanity has called by many names. The universe, God, the source, or simply the ultimate truth. And then, I heard a voice resonate within my mind. A voice not human, but one that felt strangely familiar. Now, you are ready to understand. As the voice spoke, I did not just hear the words. I felt them in every cell of my being. And at that moment, I had a profound realization. Death is not an end. It is merely a stage in the eternal journey of the soul. We are not this physical body. It is merely a vessel for us to experience and learn in the material world. Every soul has a purpose, a unique journey. Nothing happens by chance. I began to understand that we have lived through many lifetimes, each one bringing a lesson. And every action, every thought in this life, shapes the future of our soul's journey. I remembered everything I had gone through. All the pain, the joy, the lessons. And I realized that everything had a reason. What I once thought was suffering turned out to be my greatest teacher. What I once regretted was simply a necessary step in my soul's evolution. There are no mistakes, only lessons. There are no failures, only growth. At that moment, I saw something extraordinary. Different realms, existing parallel to our world. There is not just one world, but many dimensions, coexisting at the same time. I sensed the presence of countless souls, some still learning, some having evolved to a higher state. I saw wandering souls, still clinging to the material world, unable to let go. And I also saw enlightened souls, radiating pure light, At that moment, I understood that rebirth and reincarnation are real. The soul never disappears. It merely transforms, continuing to learn and evolve through many lifetimes. I remembered the teachings of Buddha. No one can escape their own karma. Every action, every thought leaves an imprint on the journey of the soul. And now, I had seen it with my own eyes. The voice spoke again. Do you understand now? You can continue on this path, or return to complete your mission. At that moment, I suddenly remembered my family. I saw the faces of my loved ones, crying beside my hospital bed, praying for my return. I remembered the things I had yet to do, the words I had not yet spoken, and I realized that I could not leave. I was not ready. I had to go back. I looked up at the being of light and spoke in my mind. I want to return. And instantly, I felt a powerful force pulling me back. The light began to fade. I felt myself being drawn into a dark tunnel, the speed increasing rapidly. Then, I heard sounds. The beeping of machines, voices, crying. A sharp pain surged through my body. I took a deep breath, feeling an unbearable weight pressing down on my chest. I opened my eyes. I had returned. I saw my family around me, their tears streaming down, the shock on the doctors' faces. Then I heard a voice. We lost you for a few minutes, but somehow, you came back. But I knew I did not come back. I was allowed to return. After coming back, everything around me felt different. I could feel people's sadness, even when they did not speak. I had strange dreams, intuitions I never had before. And most of all, I was no longer afraid of death. But I was also no longer afraid to live. I understood that every moment in this life is precious. I no longer let small things bother me, because I knew that everything is just part of a greater journey. I began to live with more awareness, to love more deeply, and most importantly, to seek the true meaning of life. And now, I want to ask you, one day, we will all walk through that door. But the real question is, when that moment comes, will you regret what you didn't do? Or will you smile, knowing you lived fully? Think about it carefully. Because time waits for no one. Are you truly living, or just existing? Are you cherishing what you have, or letting it slip away unnoticed? Think deeply. Because one day, we will all walk through that door. And when that time comes, will you look back at your life with pride, or with regret? You have a choice. And you can start changing right now. If you found this story meaningful, like, share and subscribe, to continue exploring the mysteries of life and death. Live as if today is your last day. Because who knows, it might be. Returning after stepping through the door of death is not easy. I did not just bring back memories of what I experienced. I brought back an entirely new understanding of life. I was no longer the person I used to be. And from the moment I opened my eyes again, I knew I could never live the same way as before. My breath was heavy. A sharp pain shot through my body, as if I had been yanked violently from a deep dream. I tried to open my eyes, but the hospital lights were too bright, forcing me to squint. I heard voices around me, crying, sighs of relief, the beeping of machines. I turned my head and saw my family. They were looking at me in disbelief. I had come back, but I was no longer the same person. At that moment, I couldn't fully describe how I felt. I was relieved to be back. But at the same time, I was overwhelmed. Because I knew this world would never feel the same to me again. The memories of what I had experienced were still there. The beings of light. The profound lessons. The absolute peace. But now, I was in a different place. This material world. Where everything has form, boundaries, and pain. I wondered. Why was I allowed to return? What am I supposed to do with my life after this? In just a few minutes of my near-death experience, I learned more than in my entire life before it. What I once thought was important, money, status, competition, now seemed meaningless. I realized, life is not a race to achieve more. It is a journey to truly understand oneself. We are not just this body. We are a soul experiencing the physical world. Everything that happens, good or bad, has a reason and a lesson. I began to see everything around me differently. I listened more carefully. I cherished every moment with my loved ones. I no longer got easily angry or upset over small things. Because I knew that everything would eventually pass. I was no longer afraid of death. But more importantly, I was no longer afraid to live. After coming back, I started noticing strange things. I have incredibly vivid dreams. In them, I see again the beings of light I encountered. In my near-death experience, they do not speak. But I can feel their message. Remember what you have learned. I also begin to sense the energy of those around me. When someone is sad, I feel their sorrow as if it were my own. When someone is angry, I experience their rage as a wave crashing into my mind. Sometimes, I can predict small events before they happen. Not in a prophetic way, but as if there is a knowing within me that I cannot explain. These experiences make me wonder. When we leave the physical world, does our soul expand and unlock abilities we never knew we had? After my near-death experience, I realized that I could not remain silent. I had seen and felt things that few have the chance to experience. I had to share this with others, so they too could understand the true meaning of life. So, what is the message I bring back from the realm of light? We do not live just once. Every soul has a journey far beyond what we can imagine. Death is not to be feared. The real fear is living without truly knowing who we are. We are all connected. No one is ever truly alone. Every action and thought we have leaves an imprint. Live so that every moment matters. And most importantly, love is the only thing that remains. When everything else fades away, I want to ask you a question. One I have asked myself hundreds of times since I returned. If today were your last day, are you living the way you truly want to? Are you truly cherishing your loved ones? Are you doing something meaningful with your life? Are you allowing fear to stop you from living fully? Think about it. Because one day, we will all walk through that door. And when that moment comes, will you look back with pride or with regret? Live now. Love now. Do what you've always dreamed of, now. Because time waits for no one. After my near-death experience, I knew life would never be the same. I returned with profound lessons from the other side. But most importantly, I realized that each of us, including you, can change right now. When I left my body, I saw more clearly than ever before. This world is just a small part of a greater reality. We are not merely physical beings. We are souls temporarily experiencing a human existence. Love and kindness are the only things that truly matter. When you leave this world, you take no money, no status, no fame. The only thing that remains is the love you gave and the impact you left in others' hearts. Your time is limited. Do not waste it on unimportant things, petty conflicts, or meaningless fears. Death taught me that living meaningfully is not about achieving more, but about becoming a better version of yourself. I want you to ask yourself, honestly, are you living the life you truly want? Are you spending time on what truly matters? Are you following your passion? Or are you letting fear hold you back? So many people exist, but they do not truly live. They spend their lives chasing what society expects of them. But they forget to ask the most important question. What do I truly want? Remember, you do not know when your time will come. But you can decide that when that moment arrives, you will smile. Because you have lived a life with no regrets. You do not need a near-death experience to realize the value of life. You can start right now. Do these 3 things today. 1. Cherish your loved ones. Say, "I love you," to your parents, siblings, friends. If you have unresolved conflicts, try to heal them. 2. Live the way you truly want. Do not wait. If you have a dream, start today. If you have been postponing something, take action now. 3. Help someone without expecting anything in return. A smile, a small act of kindness, can change someone's entire day. When you help others, you also become a better version of yourself. Do these things now, because no one knows what tomorrow will bring. I returned from death to share this with you. But you do not need to go through what I did to understand the value of life. You can change right now. You can choose to live a life so meaningful that you will be proud to look back on it. I believe that you are here, listening to this story, not by coincidence. Perhaps the universe is sending you a message. Perhaps this is your moment to awaken and begin your own journey. So, what will you do with your life from today onward? Share your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment that changed your life? Do you believe in near-death experiences? Comment below. If you found this video meaningful, help spread the message, like so more people can see it. Share this video to help someone awaken. Subscribe to continue exploring the mysteries of life and death. Remember, you do not need to wait until death to truly live. Live now. Because this moment is the only one you truly have. Final words. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope that what I have shared helps you see life from a new perspective. You have been given a precious gift. The gift of life. Use it fully. See you in the next video. I felt my body grow cold. My heart stopped beating. My last breath fading into nothingness. I had died. But just when I thought everything was over, I suddenly left my body, watching myself from above. And the most terrifying part, I was no longer in control of my fate. Have you ever heard of people who experienced a near-death experience? Stories of seeing a bright light, leaving their bodies, or even encountering mysterious beings? Maybe you believe. Maybe you doubt. But what I am about to share may make you rethink everything. The moment I left my body, I realized something strange. I still existed. I was still conscious of everything, but in a completely different way. And that was when I began a journey that no one could prepare for. A journey beyond the door of life. I saw things that science cannot explain. I heard messages from the other side. And when I returned, I was no longer the same person. Stay until the end of this video, because what I am about to share may change you forever. Not just about death, but about the way you are living right now. Have you ever wondered what happens when we reach the boundary between life and death? Does everything simply end? Or is there something waiting for us on the other side? In this part, I will share my near-death experience. The moment I left my body and discovered the mysteries of existence. It all began on an ordinary afternoon. I was driving on a familiar road when suddenly, a truck lost control and rushed straight toward me. In that brief moment, I only had time to hear a deafening crash before everything faded into darkness. When I woke up, I found myself in an emergency room. Bright lights, the constant beeping of machines, the anxious faces of doctors and nurses surrounding me. My body was in excruciating pain, but my mind felt distant, as if I were slowly disconnecting from this world. Suddenly, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The pain disappeared, replaced by a strange calmness. I opened my eyes and saw myself floating near the ceiling, looking down at my body on the hospital bed. The doctors were trying to revive me, but I no longer felt connected to that body. I tried to wave at them, but no one could see me. I screamed, but no sound came out. For the first time in my life, I realized I had left this world. I could see, I could hear everything around me, but no one noticed my presence. Curious, I started moving. There was no gravity, no limitations. I drifted through walls, saw other patients in nearby rooms. I saw my family sitting in the waiting room, their faces filled with worry and fear. I wanted to comfort them, but I couldn't. As I continued to move, I realized I could go further. I floated higher, looking down at the entire city from above. Everything seemed small and silent. Time felt like it had stopped, and I sensed a deep connection to everything around me. I was drifting through an empty space, trapped between two worlds. No one could see me. No one could hear me. Panic set in. Is this it? Is this where I'll be stuck forever? And then suddenly, a gentle light appeared in the distance, pulling me toward a world I couldn't even imagine. At first, I saw only faint, glowing orbs floating around. But then, these beings took a clearer shape. They had no defined forms, but I could feel their presence. One of them moved closer and transmitted a message that sent chills through me. You cannot leave yet. There is still something you must understand. One of them approached me and spoke through thought. Welcome, child, do not be afraid. We are here to help you. I felt at peace and started communicating with them. They showed me visions of my life, the key moments, the decisions that had shaped me. I realized that everything in life had meaning and purpose. After what felt like an endless moment, the light being said, "It is not your time yet. You still have much to accomplish." I understood that I had to return to my body and continue my life. But suddenly, a force pulled me away from that world. I tried to hold on to the light, but it was useless. The speed increased. I plunged through a dark tunnel, an infinite abyss. A loud explosion echoed in my mind, and in the next second, I opened my eyes. I was back. A sharp pain rushed through my chest as my body jolted from the shock of revival. The heaviness, the pain, they all returned. But my mind had changed forever. I opened my eyes and saw my family around me, tears streaming down their faces. The near-death experience completely changed the way I see life and death. I no longer feared death. Instead, I cherished every moment of life. I understood that this life is a precious gift, And we must live it meaningfully and fully. Death is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter in the soul's journey. Disclaimer: near-death experiences are complex and deeply personal. What I share here is based on my own experience and existing research. Each person may have different perspectives on this topic.